T3 audience. Welcoming all to another thought-provoking and informative session of T3 podcast series, Bolder Voices, Better Insights. Through each of these episodes, we bring to you the platform from where we embark on an interesting roller coaster ride with the industry pioneers and explore the nook and corners of the hospitality, tourism, and travel globe. For the 8th episode, we have a very interesting personality with us who, apart from promoting tourism within and beyond the vicinity of India, also has spread his infectious positivity in every professional platform he has represented. An enthusiastic entrepreneur and investor, he is currently the president of Skal International India and the chairman and CEO of CHARSON Advisory Services Private Limited. So without any further ado, me, Kuhelika Roy Chaudhary from Travel Trends Today, welcome Mr. Carl Vaz for an insightful journey and the lovely audience joining us today. Hello, Mr. Vaz.
A very good morning to you, Kulika, to all your listeners and to all the team and fraternity members at T3.
Wow, quite a warm welcoming note to begin with. So, Mr. Vaz, my first question to you is, when do you think is the full recovery in outbound travel expected to take place? I mean, what is the ground reality?
Well, there's been a lot of comments in the industry, in mainstream media, that we've already reached the so-called rebound and surpassed it to quite an extent. But I think what we need to do is to be a little more pragmatic, and you need to look at what I call as waypoints. So you should not just take, the various parameters that one needs to look at. Yes, aviation plays a role in it, and we've seen that domestic aviation has not only reached 2019 levels, but has surpassed it. However, having said that, one should not take into account only domestic, one should also take into account international. And if you look at ultra-long flights to the North America, to Australia, to some parts of the extreme Far East, are still yet to recover. If you look at the current turmoil in the Ukraine and Russia, that still leaves a lot of issues for air traffic flying over that region. So obviously these are factors that contribute to, or should I say, act as, I wouldn't say barriers, but I would say they definitely are speed breakers to the overall recovery in the aviation sector. Now, when you come to the hospitality segment of our travel, hotels are very much seen, and we've all witnessed it in many markets across India. The hotel industry occupancy levels are very much on an increase. Now, if you take that into account, however, you need to match it that there are certain parts of our industry that are still yet to witness that growth, especially the Northeast. We still need to see significant growth coming into those markets. We still need to see the extreme north of Leh and Ladakh once again witness large number of footfalls. So, there are still areas that one should look at. As I said, when you look at these parameters, you should really take it with a little pinch of salt, and you need to understand that there's a lot more we should do. If you look at ground transport, yes, I think car rentals, you look at rail, you look at bus, they are very much robust and doing business. However, we should look at the fact that it's been now 4 years since 2019, and there's something called opportunity cost. What is the opportunity cost, or what is it that people have lost over the last 4 years that needs to be made up in 2023, 2024? We shouldn't only keep using the metric we have surpassed 2019 levels. Rather, we should take into account what was the opportunity cost that was lost in 2020, 21, 22, and perhaps 23. You compound it. You have something called interest and compound interest, or yield and annualized yield when you look at your investment. So obviously in 2023, you need to have looked at much more larger growth. Your pie should have been much more larger. So to me, I feel the true, real litmus test of our industry and the actual rebound will probably be in 2025.
Brilliantly explained, Mr. Vaz. I think you have mentioned about some speed breakers in the tourism industry. So, can you kindly lead us through your views on the gaps, untapped areas, or the speed breakers of India's outbound potential? And what, according to you, is the required strategy here, Mr. Vaz?
So if now Kulika, you've pointedly asked me about outbound, so I limit my response to outbound and perhaps a few speed breakers that are there. And as I said, flying time or ultra long flights have been affected, and that is because of the Russian and Ukraine crisis. Earlier, you had the disturbance in with our neighbors in Pakistan and in Iran and all of that took place and caused an extra burden. Prior to that, you had the embargo between Qatar and its neighborly states. So, there's a lot of things that have gone in and around over the last few years. So, I think if we really need to enjoy the luxurious new wide-bodied aircrafts that all our carriers are acquiring, be it the Dreamliners or the A350s and so on, and the 777 ultra-long wide-bodied aircrafts, we really need to see geopolitics evolve to a better level. That is something that's not in our control. There are much more greater powers that are in control of that situation. But I think once those geopolitics ease off, I think we will see a much more better situation for our aviation sector, which will have a cascade effect on pricing. So yes, economy, premium economy, business class travel has to become a lot more affordable so that we can see a lot more stimulus into long distance and ultra long distance travel beyond the mid-haul, beyond Europe, beyond the Gulf, or beyond immediate Southeast Asia. If we go towards the Pacific, we need to look at ultra long really being the litmus test. I won't comment on TCS and its impact or any of the others, because I think that is governments have and governments will always play the larger fiscal brother to all of us, like it or not. So I can't say that TCS is a great barrier. It is a concern. It has been postponed to October. But having said that, will it or can it somehow be turned around to act as a positive? No, I don't think so. I think it's still a very serious point of concern. But having said that, again, let's bear in mind that the government is a different body, and we hope that the government will also take cognizance of this fact. And then the last point I'll come to that I see as a key point is really knowledge and skill sets, and that is an area that we have direct control to, Kulika. The knowledge and skill sets that our industry has is still below what we should be having. A lot has been said and a lot of fun has been done on our fellow mankind in the far west. They don't know much about India. Now, Indians as a race, we always pride ourselves on our knowledge and on the fact that of our high educational standards. So based on that, and do try and understand where I'm coming from, based on the premise that Indians keep a very high asset on educational levels, I think our travel industry needs to keep pace with that. We need to be better educated on all sorts of markets. And I'm not just talking about the geography, I'm not just talking about places of interest, but we need to be able to guide people and enthuse our outbound travelers on what is it that it feels like to travel to Brazil or to Peru or to Mexico, and not just Canada and US, right? What does it really feel like to venture into Alaska? What does it feel like to visit Japan and Australia and New Zealand or the Samoan Islands? I think that is really the knowledge and skill sets. That's very much within our control. It's very much doable. But we need to enhance our knowledge and skill sets and impart it and transmit it to the larger outbound travel population in India.
Beautifully explained, Mr. Vaz. I think we all together are looking towards and for the sun shining bright in favor of the travel and tourism industry soon. But with regards to the other end of the story, what changes in the travel agent's attitude have occurred in selling outbound tour packages, Mr. Vaz? Also, what changes have also occurred in travelers' mindset in exploring overseas destinations?
Well, I think there are, I would say, the key change that has taken place, and this is for the positive side of our travel fraternity. The key change that has taken place is the readiness to accept new destinations, right? The ability of our fraternity to absorb new concepts is much more better from all the markets that I've traveled to and interacted with. I think Indians are like a sponge. We absorb very fast. We are capable of assimilating data and content much more fast. We are capable of absorbing knowledge in the English language, which is a very, very strong asset for Indians, right? It may seem really silly or rudimentary to speak about it, but it is a fact. If you travel to China, if you travel to certain other parts of Northeast, if you travel to Central America, you travel to South America, English is not always as absorbed in their local population as it is in our population, at least as far as the discerning traveler concerned. And I'm talking about outbound travel now. Yeah, don't take me for this as generic across every single landscape in India. So English is an asset. We act as a sponge, readily acceptable. These are all positives. What is it that I see that is a concern area, and not so much as a barrier, is what I call the Indian herd mentality. And if you find, and I find that very evident in our industry. If someone is focusing on Mexico, there seems to be a rush that everyone will only look at Mexico. But there are other areas in Central America. It need not only be Mexico. You could look a little further down south, and you'll find a much more larger set of opportunities. I've also witnessed this back in the day when I was promoting a Gulf destination. People only focused on that. It's only lately that we're looking at the other Emirates in that destination, right? The GCC always had other opportunities, but we only focused on that one day, and that was because at that time, back in the day when I was promoting that Gulf destination, that came into people's spotlight, immediate lens, immediate vision, and so obviously people were looking at only that destination. So that is what I meant by the herd mentality, that we seem to kind of have sometimes we put blinkers on and we just focus in that one direction. I think that is a concern area, and if we just remove that aspect from our trait, from all of us, we'll find that we can start exploring so much more and start selling so much more. That is as far as the travel industry is concerned, in terms of our fraternity members. When it comes to the audience at large, the discerning traveler, and I'm speaking from an outbound perspective, yeah, since your question was outbound. The audience at large is far, far ahead of us. Thanks to OTT platforms, thanks to podcasts, thanks to Instagram, Telegram, all of the other social media assets, right? Today's OTT platforms are so much. I mean, people have actually given up the dish TV and switched on to the Fire Stick and other platforms, right? I mean, that is more beneficial at home than it is to have dish on your balcony, on your terrace. So obviously, all of that content and that data that's coming into people's mind is churning the need and hunger for better aspirational living. And you can see that, Kulika, from as basic as the type of coffee that you drink or the coffees that are available in a supermarket, to the type of furnishings in your home, to the type of car that you're driving and the features in your car. It's all exploding exponentially. Consumerism is taking effect, right? From clothing trends to hairstyles and so on. And that is all because of the impact of social media and OTT platforms, right? So the consumer is way ahead, and therefore as an industry, we need to better equip ourselves to catch and ensure that we're riding that wave, and not just riding, but we're on top of that wave.
Very informative and insightful, Mr. Vaz. Moving ahead, I think the audience would also want me to redirect this chat a little towards Skal's current activities and roadmap. So, Mr. Vaz, what are the activities lined up for Skal India? How are you growing the Skal India membership, and how is Skal India contributing to the entire India tourism ecosystem?
Well, I can just tell you that today Skal India has 1,261 members across 17 chapters in India. And we're very proud of that figure because it shows that, and these are senior travel professionals. So it shows that the organization in India is robust, it's growing, and it's acknowledged. Skal represents 42 verticals. So we have hospitality, airlines, travel and tourism, companies, ground operators, educational establishments, IT service providers, and so on. Now, what's coming up ahead? Well, we have the India Congress scheduled to take place from the 4th to the 8th of October in twin cities of Mysuru and Bengaluru. So we're having 2 nights in Mysuru and 2 nights in Bengaluru. It's the first time in Skal India's history that 2 cities will play host to a Congress. I think it's also a very unique attempt by an association in India to split a Congress between 2 cities, to develop a state like Karnataka for tourism. You can't only centralize and focus on Bengaluru. So that is how we have brought traditional with modernity, Mysuru with Bengaluru, right? And of course, there are business sessions, there are exhibitions that we are planning, and so on and so forth. Now, that is on a physical activity. On a more larger consciousness level, we do a lot as our chapters across India. We have a lot of work that's done with the homeless, with aged, we even had a village adopted in Tamil Nadu by the local Coimbatore and Skal India national body to develop the local city, the village. I'm sorry, and so there's a lot of activities that we do. But I want to bring about a key task force that's been set up, and something that I personally am heading now. And this is a very serious subject called child trafficking, and child trafficking for sexual exploitation, for forced labor, or even for organ harvesting. And unfortunately, Kulika, our travel and tourism is somehow involved in, and it is involved in this industry, albeit not of will, but it's being used by the perpetrators, by the pedophiles, by the traffickers, right? So we need to take cognizance of this, and we have formed a task force in India for the prevention of trafficking of children, so we are now taking steps to educate our members, taking steps to ensure that our 17 chapters and all the new chapters that will be formed understand this menace and understand how we need to ensure that our industry does not support or be as much as a victim of this menace. And this will be one of the key serious points of discussion at the Congress coming up in October. We will also have international speakers, and we will be working with international associations and NGOs in this area.
Really glad to know about all these activities lined up for Skal India. Another very interesting area where me as well as the T3 audience would also like to know from you is, Mr. Vaz, how do you think the Indian government prioritizing the tourism industry? What is your take in this?
Kulika, I think one should just first step back and understand where we've come from. I come from a generation where I have seen India open up in 1991 till what it is today in 2023, and I can see that there's been a great change in our country over the last 30 odd years, right? In these last 33 years, I can see that we have evolved to such a level that certain blips and you'll come to understand what I mean by that. Certain blips need to be taken with a pinch of salt. And therefore, yes, the imposition of the increase from service tax, and then the conversion from service tax to GST, and then the imposition of TCS, and then the 5% and onwards to 20% that is looming in the next couple of months. I think all of this is a serious point of concern, but I think we need to work together with the government to make them understand how do we overcome this blip. You see, Kulika, if you put 10 rupees into my wallet and then expect me to share with you 2 rupees, it does pinch, when historically I was only paying 5 rupees or 3 rupees. But if you put 100 rupees into my wallet, I don't mind spending 20 rupees or giving 20 rupees back. So I think it's about how much more you can put into the bucket as opposed to drilling a hole in the bucket and letting it leak. So I think that is perhaps the quantum shift in thought process that needs to happen between our trade and the government. We need to work together to see how much more money can we add so that it becomes easier to take.
Brilliantly explained, Mr. Vaz. Well, as we conclude the last question from this end, I think we really had a great time enjoying listening to your perspectives and the information exchange, Mr. Vaz. It is always so positive to have your presence around, and definitely learning about new directions that can bring a new dawn to the tales of the tourism industry. So, any message that you would like to convey to our audience or the industry? Your closing words, sir.
Well, I'll say that it's now the monsoons, and I know sometimes it can be a bit of a dampener and a bit of a melancholy. But I think on that positive note, a good cup of tea and a samosa will see you through the day, and stay happy.
With this, I conclude this session today, and thank you, Mr. Vaz, for your time today, and also thanking the lovely audience joining the session. This is Kuhelika Roy Chaudhary signing off, as we promise to get back with another detailed session with another voice and another insightful conversation. Stay tuned for more. Thank you so much. Surely. Thank you so much, Mr. Vaz.
All right. Thank you so much, Kuhelika. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.